Good afternoon. Welcome to Detox to Rehab Daily Livestream Reflections. And joining me today is Corey, Connor, and Bianca. Now, each week here we go through two readings from Just for Today and Daily Reflections, and our guests here share their insights with their lives in recovery. So our first reading is from Just for Today, and the topic being letting our defects go. According to page 34 of Basic Text, it says that if character defects contributed to our health and happiness, we would not have to come to such a state of desperation. Getting started on the 6th and 7th steps isn't always easy. We may feel as though we have so much wrong with us that we are totally defective. We might feel like hiding under a rock. Under no circumstance would we want our fellow addicts to know about our inadequacies. We'll probably go through a time of examining everything we say and do in order to identify our character defects and make sure we suppress them. We may look back at one particular day, cringing at what we're certain is the most embarrassing thing we've ever said. We become determined to be rid of these horrible traits at all costs. But nowhere in the 6th or 7th steps does it say we can learn to control our defects of character. In fact, the more attention we focus on them, the more firmly entrenched they will become in our lives. It takes humility to recognize that we can't control our defects any more than we can control our addiction. We can't remove our own defects. We can only ask a loving God to remove them. Letting go of something painful can be as difficult as letting go of something pleasant. But let's face it, holding on is a lot of work. When we really think about what we're holding on to, the effort isn't worthwhile. It's time to let go of our character defects and ask God to remove them. So just for today, I'm ready to have my defects removed. I will let go and allow a loving power to care for me. Wow, it's really powerful. Any thoughts?
I think that you have to take action in order for them to be removed. You don't just, ask God, hey, remove these for me, and it be said and done. It takes time and dedication to actually remove them, and something that helps for me is just being aware of what I'm saying and doing my best to, when I feel like something's wrong inside, I get that intuitive feeling and I'll take a step back and just look at what I'm doing. And sometimes even today I'll lie about something and have to be like, you know what, that was a lie. And I just don't even realize that I do it. It just kind of happens. But if I'm aware of the situation and I can correct it, I feel like that's more productive I don't want to say that. They both have the same effectiveness as praying and taking action. I think you have to do both.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think my favorite part of this is where it talks about kind of like the positive mentality of focusing on like the more positive stuff. Like
right.
Instead of worrying about like not lying, trying to change your attention to being honest.
Right.
That's the part of action that I think we can take. There's things that happen and I lie every once in a while, you know what I mean? And it's just like a reaction. It just happens. If I'm late for work, right, automatically my head is like, you could say these 30 different things that aren't true.
Right.
But after some time working in program, I definitely, that side of like, be honest, tell the truth, because doing that in the past in your recovery has always worked out better than lying. And it takes some time to realize that and to rely on the experience you have with being honest and taking that positive route instead of using those character defects to your advantage.
Right. I agree with that.
Yeah, and it even says in here that holding on to those defects, like being dishonest, is more work than letting go of them. But you're right, it does it's not a passive process. There was some work involved. But, like, let's just take the lying one, for instance. It's a lot easier to just be honest than it is to lie constantly. I don't have to work really hard at remembering everything I told the truth about,
Mhm.
you know? And like you were saying with, you know, if I'm late to work, I've started to kind of go the other way with it. Just my immediate reaction is to tell a lie,
Mhm.
you know? Like, oh yeah, you know, like bus broke down, something. So I'll just go even further. I'm like, so there was this rhinoceros that escaped from the
Right.
zoo and it kidnapped
Right.
this baby. And like, all right,
I
yeah,
saved
no,
the
I
baby.
overslept, you know?
Mhm.
Like, one of those sounds more ridiculous than the other. And the more I work on these, the more I try to, like you were saying, work towards the positives rather than work on the negatives, the easier it is.
Mhm.
At first, it was a lot of practice. It was unfamiliar being honest. My immediate reaction was to like lie. I gotta protect myself. And the more I've done that, the more people have seen. You know, the more honest I am, the more I can be trusted.
Right.
Even if the truth is that I screwed up, that I'm not as great as I would like to think I am, like.
You're seen as an honest person.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Definitely. I like
mean-
that we point out the part of your mind that is like, hey, do all these other things,
Mhm.
Mhm.
right? Instead of telling the truth. And I think that's just part of, I mean, I'm sure normal people, like non-addicts or alcoholics, do the same thing, but I feel like addicts and alcoholics have such an overactive, like, inflated instincts, or you
Yeah.
have to, like, it's just so powerful on that
Mhm.
side of, like, lie, cover your butt, you know?
Mhm.
It's just gotta break it down, slow it down, and see the result of both. The short term lying might be beneficial, but honesty, like you're talking about, is definitely more beneficial in the long run.
And it seems like most of the work on all of these comes in like the 8th and 9th step.
Right.
Like when I'm going through, you know, if I'm going through making amends to all the people I stole from, it leaves me much less inclined to steal again.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
It
Yeah, it
feels
does.
better to just tell the truth too,
Mhm.
because then you don't have that guilt and shame of, oh, should I have lied? Should I not have lied?
Which is like a
Like-
sickness. You feel
Yeah.
sick almost.
Yeah.
I
I'm just
I do.
constantly-
Yeah, no, I do too.
And just constantly being on edge
Mhm.
about that lie getting discovered.
Right.
Mhm.
Hey Corey, I need to talk to you.
They know.
Have you already had lunch yet?
That backfires.
Yeah.
That backfire. That's backfired in my life personally.
Yeah.
Always comes back.
It's also pretty exhausting trying to hold on to, trying to remember your story for the lie too. I mean, the truth is easy to remember because it actually happened.
Right.
But,
I agree.
Yeah, one interesting thing kind of along these lines that I thought of was a piece of advice I was given. It was the equation for change. And someone said that it was awareness plus action equals change. I find, there's like this really cool duality to it because, when you have that awareness that, we're not perfect and we have these shortcomings, but then when you kind of act in that process of getting better, like you're saying, like, being honest and, even like catching yourself in the middle of a lie.
Mhm.
I mean, I feel like it's that process that really causes that genuine change.
Right.
But how do you start to be aware? Like, where does that come from in the first place?
Yeah.
Well, in this particular instance, probably like going through the whole 4th and 5th step.
Right. The
Mhm.
steps the first time, so you
Yeah.
can get that awareness of, like, this is
Mhm.
where my actions have taken me.
Yeah.
It's part of the inventory. It's part of, even like observations. When you start to really listen to the, people around you, there's, perhaps times when you might even just get this blinding flash of the obvious, something that you're not even aware of.
Mhm.
I've always find those moments to be kind of like the most powerful, really.
Right.
Excellent. So, shall I move on to the second reading then?
Sure.
Yeah.
So this next reading is from Daily Reflections. This one is called A Classic Prayer. The first excerpt is taken from page 99 of 12 Steps and 12 Traditions. Lord, make me a channel for thy peace, that where there is hatred, I may bring love, that where there is wrong, I may bring a spirit of forgiveness, that where there is discord, I may bring harmony, that where there is error, I may bring truth. That where there is doubt, I may bring faith. That where there is despair, I may bring hope. That where there are shadows, I may bring light. And that there is sadness, I may bring joy. Lord, grant that I may seek rather to comfort than to be comforted, to understand than to be understood, to love than to be loved. For it is by self-forgetting that one finds. It is by forgiving that one is forgiven. It is by dying that one awakens to eternal life. Amen. No matter where I am in my spiritual growth, the St. Francis prayer helps me improve my conscious contact with the God of my understanding. I think that one of the great advantages of my faith in God is that I do not understand him, or her, or it. It may be that my relationship with my higher power is so fruitful that I do not have to understand. All that I'm certain of is that if I work the 11th step regularly, as best I can, I will continue to improve my conscious contact. I will know his will for me, and I will have the power to carry it out. Interesting. Any first impressions upon reading?
One thing I've always liked about this particular prayer is, how do I put this? It's just constant reminders of humility.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that my plans and designs don't really matter in the grand scheme of things.
Right.
Whatever I want out of a situation is probably not the most important thing in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
And if I can try to do these things to just like bring harmony and like, you know, sway discord, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I heard someone say kind of recently, as regarding the whole knowing God's will for me, you know, you hear it quite often, I just have to keep doing the next right thing.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody was saying, well, I don't know what the next right thing is. All I have to make sure I do is that I make sure I do the next thing right. Because generally, like, whatever's happening, that's kind of, like, whatever the given situation is, that's probably God's will, whatever's
Right.
going on right now. And if I just do my best in that situation, if I just do that thing that comes my way right, I've probably done the next right thing. But I have no idea what the next right thing is going to be.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the reasons I like this particular prayer.
You ever watched the yogurt commercial where it's like, make a healthy decision, eat something healthy, and then like the next healthy decision is easier? I think it's kind of like that.
That was good. That was good.
I mean, that's how I relate it. Like when you're talking about doing the next right thing, right? If I can do that, maybe that my relationship with my higher power is so fruitful that I do not have to understand, and that's definitely true for me. And through my experience, I've seen such incredible improvements in my life that I don't care how it works or if it's even there. Me believing, having faith, and taking those actions have given me that connection because of, I don't want to say fruitful, but all the benefits of it, all the positive things that have come about because of that relationship with whatever it is. I don't have to understand it, it just works.
Right. I really like how you said that. When I was reading this, I didn't necessarily like know what to say because I think this reading speaks for itself, but there's just so many things that happen in my life that I don't understand what you were saying, but they do. Like, for example, I was able to go watch my little brother's basketball tournaments this weekend, and I'm able to get up and go to a meeting with my dad, and my grandma's sick right now. I can go to her house and do things with her because I'm clean and sober, and that's because of my higher power that I don't necessarily understand, but it's evidence that it's real and there's something watching over me, because when I was doing and running on self-will, there was nothing good for me. I was homeless, drug addict, and I really like this prayer because it's true at any time, no matter where I am in my spiritual growth, I can always come back to it and just to be reminded of, just be reminded.
Absolutely. I think it's really interesting, actually talking about the contrast between the darkness and the light, and discord. It's interesting because sometimes there's a little bit of an interesting belief that it's often the things that are wrong in the world and the things that often hurt us, it actually gives us a sense of direction in our lives. Even the scriptures in the Bible that says that our trials and tribulations, that they're actually for our edification and our salvation. I find that interesting because a lot of things can happen, and in the moment they are not pleasant at all.
Right.
But it's like any good book or anything, that when there's that conflict, when there's that opposing force that you have to overcome, that's what really defines a story. How do you guys feel about that?
Well, I've noticed that when things aren't going my way, something is going wrong, in the process of making an amends, I risk going to jail, something crazy. Or even just things, my roommate drank the last of the coffee. All of those things, when things aren't going the way I had hoped or planned, that's like the real test of my serenity. Because the rest of the time, it could just be that I'm getting my way. And so I'm totally cool with it. But if things go wrong and I can still believe that it's going to work out the way it's supposed to and that I'll probably be okay after this, then I must be doing something right. I must have been able to stay up on the work I should have been doing.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
There's the opportunity to have a different mindset.
Yeah.
To rely on that connection.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess opportunity definitely comes out of bad things. I mean, I wouldn't be sober and have the life I have if I didn't have the trouble that I had with addiction. So I definitely believe positive things can come out of negative situations.
Right. And people sometimes ask me, how are you the way you are with what you've been through? And it's not how am I, it's what I've become because what I've been through, if that makes sense. I've just become such a genuine, humble person that if I didn't go through what I went through, I don't think I would be the person I am today. And it's all thanks to my higher power and my understanding that I necessarily don't understand all the time, but
No, absolutely. Yeah. One thing that I'm also kind of curious about, kind of a question for you guys. If someone's encountering perhaps an unpleasant situation, and like Corey, you were saying, it's a real test of serenity. And what if someone were to maybe not deal with it in the way that they wish they had? Maybe someone actually got angry and lost their temper or something. Do you think even that in and of itself is an opportunity to learn more from that experience?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't get to where I am by not making mistakes. The situations I've handled, I guess, correctly, you could say, those I breezed right through. I don't really remember them. The times that I screwed up, though, that I acted the wrong way, that I got angry, that I lost my temper at someone, that I just lashed out, or that I reacted out of fear and tried to hide from something, those are the ones that stuck with me. I remember that, and I remember it not turning out that great.
Yeah.
So it was an opportunity to learn that maybe the behaviors that drove me for a really long time aren't going to continue to help me out anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't look at this for a long time, though. I didn't look at those behaviors for a long time.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to. So wrapped up in the obsession of, drug addiction that it doesn't matter. Even if I do look at those situations, all I do is just get depressed
that was
or
weird.
anxious
Yeah.
or
just cringe right before you fall asleep.
Those things that you think about before you go to bed that haunt you.
Yeah.
And you can't do anything about it until somebody takes you through the steps. At least that's how it worked for me. And that fourth step and the fifth step is where you get a chance to look at these things, look at these behaviors that you've committed and all the harm that you've done to everybody. And that's really the first opportunity, the first time in my life where I really looked at myself with a objective kind of thinking and was like, okay, what do I do with this? Like, this is what happened because of these actions. Now what?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it just goes back to having a sponsor.
Yeah.
I think somebody that can guide you through thunder.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thunder. Storm going.
But somebody that can guide you through the steps and kind of point out to you without judgment, right, where these behaviors have led you wrong.
Absolutely. I find it really interesting too that it actually kind of comes full circle to the first reading, you know, because now it's actually talking about what we do with that inventory of where we think that, you know, some of the things that we would want to change about ourselves. And yeah, it's just kind of interesting when that awareness is kind of brought to you when you really think about a lot of these, you know, these actions, that it allows you to have even more awareness of, you know, where you are in recovery and how you deal with a lot of these situations that come up. And I feel like it kind of builds that kind of momentum where you're relying more and more on your higher power to help you out.
Yeah.
Interesting. Any other thoughts you guys have? I think we're good then.
Cool.
Alrighty. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back live again next week, and we'll be going through the next set of reflections.